Posting about how late you're working, #grind.
Ooh, fuck, that's an over because I do it, but I think it's cheesy as shit. Because I'll just drive by my office with like a burger. I'm like, I should take a picture right now and pretend I'm working. Like,
welcome to another episode of Here We Grow. Today, I got my buddy Dorian on. So you've been selling for 2 years. You're an investor.
Yep.
But that's the big thing is that you started in the investor world. I want you to tell your story in a second here. But
yeah.
So it's funny because we're about to start and Dorian's like, so what's this podcast called? So the podcast is called Here We Grow.
Yeah.
And the whole goal of the podcast, like I was saying before we got on here, is to have people who have that growth mindset. So whether it's entrepreneurs, investors, obviously realtors is our biggest, market, but people who have the growth mindset and want to do better. Because like I say a lot on this podcast, I think that the word complacency should be a curse word. And, if you're not growing, you're dying is the other thing to say.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about your story about how you got into real estate and kind of your first, obviously 2 years in the business and how that's gone.
Sure. Yeah. So my background was never specifically real estate. I had other jobs. I was more in the marketing advertising field. Bought my first house hacked it, realized that was probably better than any job I could work. We were in a good market, so the growth was happening. I was living rent free. So I became kind of what I considered at the time to be a real estate investor, even though, most people would say probably not. I kept trying to buy properties. I really had to dig deep into like figuring out ways for creative financing and how to land properties and, how to make things happen because I didn't have this unlimited bankroll. So I started digging into vendor take back stuff and, private mortgages and private monies and flips, kind of started rolling that. And then the real truth of it is I couldn't find any, what I considered at the time, good real estate agents. I dealt with a few people. I didn't think that they were as good as they should be. So I decided to get my license, solely just to do my own deals. I wasn't planning to be, an agent. If my friends and family wanted to sell with me, I was totally going to help them out. But I wasn't trying to be on billboards, #1 realtor, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to buy my own deals, sell my own deals. And I kind of wanted to be in the community in Kingston of, off-market deals, other agents. So I ended up getting my license 2 years ago, still continued to invest. And it just kind of, right as I was coming in, the market was going absolutely crazy. Everyone was buying and selling. I ended up getting quite a bit of business, and the rest is history. So I went from probably wanting to be 80% investor, 20% agent to it's probably flipped. I'm probably more 80% agent, 20% investor currently. However, the market's probably on a bit of a downshift, so I think I'll be able to balance that out a bit more. Right. And I think there's good buying opportunities.
So what in the first kind of 6 months, let's say, to a year, I think we all do when we get into this business. What surprises did you have for better or worse? And I'll go into so when I got in, I think, I had a lot of exposure to real estate. My dad's been in business for 20 years. Yeah. I went to work for a team in Ottawa, they built the fastest growing RE/MAX in the world for 2 years in a row. So I learned a lot from the people that were around me. But it's like the whole Grant Cardone 10X rule. I still didn't realize how much it was going to take me to get my business going, and how much effort. So for better and worse, were there things that surprised you about the industry?
Yeah. Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
Fuck yeah,
okay,
dude.
Good. Yeah, it's a shit show, man. What you get and when you go and you do, I went through the Humber College version of the real estate education, and I was doing that right as COVID hit. So we went from in-class testing to online proxies and laptops and phones and all this shit. Right. So once I actually got licensed, and you're thinking you're working towards this license, like it's the magical key. And then they're like, okay, here's your license. Then you're like, oh, okay, what now?
Good fucking luck.
Yeah, what are you going to do, right? So, then you don't realize how much you're everything. You're your marketing guy. You're the sales. You're HR. You're your accounting. So then trying to put all those systems in place right off the bat, because it's easy to be like, okay, well, I sold a house. Now, what do I do with the money? Do you set some aside for tax? Do you start up a PREC or a corporation and put your commissions into that? Do you draw a salary? What are you doing for marketing? What's your budget? Most new agents come into real estate not having a couple $100,000 of safety net. They're just like, okay, I've got $8,000 in my account. Well, do you buy a billboard? Do you do online social ads? So that first 6 months, you're just really scrambling to figure it out. And every single time you talk to another agent, they'll give you a different idea of what you should do or how you should do it. And so like that figuring that out, and I came in with 6 years of investing experience, so I understood the market, I understood homes, I can't imagine trying to learn that aspect of it as well. Like, what the fuck's a septic inspection? What's a well test? What's a flow rate? What's water quality? Like, especially in rural properties. So when you got to learn all that plus learn the business side, like, you're really getting set up for failure pretty early on. So,
dude, it's funny because I was the complete opposite. So I had all of the business stuff behind it, right? I had seen, what it took these guys in Ottawa to succeed. I was an inside sales agent for them. I came home, I was an inside sales agent here. I saw everything about like how to build your business and all that. But I didn't even fucking own a house.
Yeah.
So I'm selling, living in my dad's basement, and I was at inspections instead of being like, "Oh, yeah, I know what this is." I'm like, "Hey, inspector, tell my clients about these windows. What do we need to know?"
Yeah, exactly.
Like asking them as if I knew the answer, but I'm like, hey, all right,
and there is a lot of kind of not faking it till you make it, but. I don't care who you are. I thought I knew a lot about real estate, and 2 years down my journey, if I was to talk to myself now, I would think that 2 years ago Dorian was a fucking idiot. Like, and I knew quite a bit back then, but
I think that should always be the goal. If you ain't growing, you're dying, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I'm dedicated to lifelong learning, so I'm always trying to broaden my horizons, learn more stuff, learn about different markets and different niches. But yeah, that first 6 months for new realtors, I think they're just walking into a fucking like a tree grinder, just like I'll spit you out the other side. Like it's tough. And the problem is people got this idea in their head that it's easy because they hear the numbers, right? Oh, I sell $1 million house. This is how much money you make, but they have no idea the backside of that, of like what goes out, what you get taxed, what goes back to the brokerage, who you got to pay out, what percentage of that money you keep, how much you spent on your Facebook, your social media, your accountant, your all that shit. And what it's like. There's like the costs are heavy. It's easy to get lost in the big numbers, but when you're making big numbers, you're spending big numbers. 100%. So it's a grind.
Which is the same thing that goes for investing, right? Like you're either growing or you're cash flowing type of thing, right? Yeah. But I also think in this business, if you as soon as you get complacent, like I say, you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not continuing to invest in yourself and your business, because I truthfully think that investing in yourself is the best investment you can make, right?
Yeah. 100%.
So the thing, the what you were saying about new agents coming in and not knowing stuff, and it being a fucking tree grinder, which I love. When you first came in, you were solo, and now you've developed a partnership, which I think kind of goes into that constant learning and stuff like that. We were talking about this before the podcast. How important do you think that is, aligning yourself with the right people and, potentially, I guess, getting on a team when you're first licensed?
So, I mean, for me personally, if I was going to recommend it to someone, it's tough because you could start off in real estate and have no deals. And you could really be just sitting there dying. And there's a huge percentage of real estate agents that drop out after the first. I think it's
80% after 2 years, 90% after 5.
There you go. See, he's got the numbers. I was going to make shit up, but
I knew it was somewhere like that. If you're ever gonna make up a stat, make sure it's not a round number. 91% of this, everybody's like, okay.
Yeah, I was going to go with 78%, but you said 80, so that must be the real number. But yeah, there's a huge failure rate in the early on, and I think there's so many variables. I think when you start as an agent, I honestly think if I had started at 22, I wouldn't still be in real estate because my friends wouldn't have been buying, my sphere of influence wouldn't have been buying. I just kind of came
21,
in,
dude. It was fucking hard.
It's a grind, right? Yeah. And then so I didn't realize my whole life I was kind of like I was in the bar scene. I met a lot of people, and now that I'm at the age I'm at, I became a realtor. All these people that kind of knew me started using me, so I lucked out in that first year where I was busy. But in a perfect world, I would say an agent should start on their own solo, do a year of it so you can learn as much as you can. And then if you're not having great success or you're not where you want to be, I would consider joining a team. Or maybe it doesn't have to be a year, maybe 9 months, and then join a team. And then you take what you've learned yourself, and then you're able to go into a team and it takes systems on. I was lucky. I met Jordan McGregor. He's at my brokerage. That guy's an absolute beast, super top agent. And we just started talking from an investment standpoint, not an agent standpoint. He heard I was doing some things. He liked some of my social media stuff, went for lunch a few times, and then he was telling me how he was doing it and what he was doing. And it was interesting to me. We developed a friendship first, started working together on a few little projects, and then before you know it, him and I are, partnered on this team. And it's been going really good honestly, it was so great for me to learn everything I could on my own, and where I felt I was kind of maxed out or topped out. And I was, not to sound like, but like with my friends, have you ever tried to talk real estate with your friends and they're just
All the time.
it's just dead. You're just hitting a ceiling because you can only talk about it in like a down version. When I'm talking to Jordan about it, the guy is like a mutant. He's like, well, you could do this and that, and you've refinanced this and pull it from here, and then do the forced equity here, and then mitigate your risk on the back end. And you're like, holy shit. And it's like, I felt recharged talking to the guy because it was like, I'm learning again. Like this guy's telling me stuff. So joining his team was amazing from the investment standpoint, and he's also like 8 years ahead of me as an agent, so he's got his systems in place, how he does it, and then so to take what you learn on your own in the first year grinding and then put that together with somebody that's been doing it 10 years ahead of you is like, that was like, for me, that's the key right there.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you, and this is not a systems and very educated question, but it's the one I like to ask every agent. So in our time in the business, we typically see, and like you said, it's not very glamorous. There's a lot of crazy shit that we have to deal with and we have to see. Now I have a story preloaded on deck for this, but can you think of a crazy ass story or something that happened to you in your first 2 years that you're like, well, I didn't expect to be seeing this type of shit?
Oh yeah. It was like my first month as an agent.
No, really? That quick?
First month in. So I was lucky enough that like I had friends that wanted to sell before I was licensed. So I gave it to another realtor and he basically kicked me back a referral fee that was almost. So I started with like my first deal loaded. But my second deal after that, there was a house out in like Mallorytown area. And it was right when the market was going crazy, and then there was this house on the MLS that was like $170,000. You look at the picture of the outside, you're like, this house is beautiful. 2-car garage, little raised bungalow, new siding, new flooring, whatever. So I'm like, this is crazy. I start getting calls about it. Hey, can I see this house? Can I see this house? Like, yeah, sure. So I dig into the house a bit, read about the description. I find out, well, a couple people had passed away in the house.
Holy fucking shit, dude. I'm not even kidding you. Look what I have written down. I think we're about to talk about the same house.
Is it the one?
Tell the story, man.
Okay, so it's my first fucking... I'm a real estate agent for like, I don't know, 4 weeks at the time. And anyways, everyone wants to go see this house. It's like $170,000. It should be $400,000. So I'm going there, and then I read it. It's like a couple people passed away in the house. Whatever. We're real estate agents. People pass away in houses. I've gone to lots of houses where, you know, nanny passed on and all her shit's still there. It's a little bit weird, but, you know, someone's got to take over that house and live in it. But this house was different. So I go in. The floors have been cut up.
Yes, dude, it's the same house.
Oh, my God. So I'm in there. My first, you were probably already an agent for a little bit.
Yeah.
So the house had a stench in it that was unbearable. I start digging into it. What happened was, unfortunately, 2 older people had passed away. Their caretaker was their son. The son had a heart attack while he was cutting the grass, went back into the house, and everyone was passed away in the house, but no one found out for months. And the entire house was like disintegrated and
dude,
like,
so okay. Dude, that's so
fucked up.
That's funny. That's the same story I had written down. That's amazing.
And
okay.
and that was so, and I went through that house with so I went through with my buyers and they're like, this is too fucked for me. Then as I was walking out, there was like a line of people wanting to go through the house, and they're just stopping from the road because they saw, like, they just drove to see this house that's so cheap. And so I started taking other people through. They're like, oh, can you let us in the house? I'm like, do you have an agent? They're like, no. I'm like, yeah, I'll show you through. If you want to make an offer, I'll write it. Yeah. So I'm like sitting through, just taking people through. And I was in this house for hours. And I could still remember the fucking smell of it. And it was just, it was a weird.
I hunt and fish, and I've had experiences with dead animals and stuff, and I know that smell pretty well.
Yeah.
I have never smelled that shit in my life. That was insane, because they were there for 3 months, they said, until anybody found them. And like, there was like, I didn't know what this was till after. My uncle's a homicide detective, so good guy to ask. But there was shit on the walls,
all the fly wings,
and he said that was part of that would be from them.
Yeah.
So like, when you sit for that long, you like.
So I was talking to a guy that was there too, and he's like, I was like, why are all the walls look like there's mold in here? He's like, the flies land on the remains and it's gooey, so then they fly away and hit the wall, and then it leaves a splatter on the wall. So the whole wall looked like it was black along the top from flies growing and then splattering their wings on the wall. So then when you really get into it from an investment standpoint, I was talking to a few people, like, you need to rip everything from the subfloors all the way down to the studs. You basically need to rebuild the house. Ended up selling for something like $200,000 over asking. But that was like my first week, and I'm like, I didn't expect that. I'm thinking like, selling Sunset. Ooh, look at this house. Granite counters and shaker cabinets, quiet close. Not like walk over the body, okay? Take your boots off here because you got to put some bags on your feet and we got to trudge through the fucking death thing in the backyard. But great well, okay? It's got a great flow rate on it. So that was my first experience. I was like, okay, this is maybe more than
And how about that curb appeal?
Yeah, it's great. Once the stench is gone, you know what? A little bit of paint in here, a little bit of Zinsser, you'll be fine. Like, I would buy this. Like, no.
The worst part is I'm sure you see now that like you're, in the business and stuff. Sometimes somebody calls you, they go, can I see this property? You do a quick, yep, I see it. Good. I know where it is. It lines up in my schedule. I'll meet you there.
Right.
And I get in the driveway and I'll start looking on the Prospects app, like, okay, like trying to get informed. Well, I pull up Prospects app and my client pulls in. I'm like, I don't know shit about this house. I know the list price. I literally didn't know shit about the house.
Happens.
And we're up and I'm opening the lot box and like my client's like, yeah, it's crazy. Like what's going on with this house? And I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. And then he's like, yeah, just people died in here. And I'm like, oh, this is what I get for not doing my research.
Yeah. That was, honestly, it's probably the most fucked up house I've been to yet. And it just happened so early on. I mean, I've been to some other ones that like were weird, but I went to this one where the lady had passed away and they were like showing the house, but like everything remained the same from the second so like there was like a chair with a TV dinner in front of it and like a bingo scratcher and like a basket of unfolded laundry like next to the TV chair. And I'm like, they've touched nothing. Like they might have turned the TV off, but everything was in the same place. So that was another weird one where it's like you just feel like you're walking through someone's home and
they're not there.
Yeah,
I had that yesterday. Actually, I was in a house yesterday, and they're like, "Is this guy living here?" I'm like, "I don't think so, but it definitely looks like he is."
Yeah,
dude, that's hilarious. That we had
funny
the same story.
Down.
Well, I got a bunch of them like in my phone.
How have you not said that story on a previous episode about going to a fucked up house?
We had snake. Well, we've had a bunch of stories. I've had stories about. This year I had a 5-foot long python that we found in somebody's basement.
Oh my god, freak!
Brent talked about his bank robbery that he had a client rob a bank. We had another house with the guy had. So there was like one room that went to the basement, and the first room you went into had like hundreds of rats. And they're like, okay, this is fucked up, and what's going on here? And then they went down, and they're like, oh, those were feeder rats for like 50 plus like boxes of snakes.
Oh my god,
this guy had in his house. So mostly it's been snakes so far, but we haven't got to that.
Have you gone to the sex house, the sex room in the basement with
the
secret?
Haven't seen that yet.
Okay, yeah, go check that out. That's a good one.
Is it live?
Is it a live sex house?
No, is it?
Is it a live listing? Yeah, there's some people in there. Fuck no, I'm just.
That was on the market though.
It was, yeah, and it was in the basement, and it just looked like a wall, and then there's a little thing, and you like pull the wall open, and then it's just a red boudoir sex room.
Oh my god!
Like a spinny thing, and like a gimp mask on the wall, and. I'm thinking
the worst part is your clients bought it.
Clients? That's my house now. No, but I just don't understand, like, why wouldn't you, like, make it something different for showings? Like, oh, this is our hidden office.
Right.
Like, yeah, you don't need a fucking whips and chains hanging from the wall. Like, okay, pretend it's not what that. Maybe that's the appeal, though. I don't know.
I've definitely seen a few things like that. Yeah, absolutely. The things that we see are just, it's crazy. Actually, Brent was shooting a house. This was like a couple of weeks ago, and I think he called my dad after and was like, yeah, I need a fucking raise and a shower. Because why would you send me here? Like, we're doing external pictures on this next time.
Oh yeah, so that's good. So systems, no.
Yeah. So what do you think makes a good realtor? Let's transition into something very important.
You know what, man? I've
see, this is what I'm talking about. Like before we get live, Dorian's like, "Okay, well, what kind of like vibe are we going for?" And I'm like, "I want to tell the crazy shit that happens, but I also want to try to bring some value to people."
I mean, to be honest, it's real. We're being real. That's 100%. Real realtor shit. It's not like the one-offs. Like,
the conversations, part of the goal of like this podcast is to have the conversations that you and I would have at a bar. Right. We're still talking about building our business, but you're like, "Hey, how about these dead people?"
Yeah, and that's part of it, right? Yeah. So. You know, I've thought about this, like what makes a good realtor, because I've had people always, and we were talking off camera a bit, everybody wants to be a real estate agent right now, right? You go get a coffee, I'm getting my license. And I don't know, I'm not fully convinced that you can take an average person and train them to be a good realtor. I feel like you have to be born with a little bit of that entrepreneurial hustle, a little bit of that like go get it mentality. I don't think you can. I think you have to do it for the right reasons. I think a lot of people that I talk to, I'm like, why do you want to be a realtor? Oh, the money. It's the money. And I think if you're becoming a realtor for the money, it's the wrong choice. Because as much as we do this and the money is fucking sweet sometimes and you can land a big deal, there's a lot of bullshit in between there. So, but yes, is the money good in real estate? It can be. But I think you need to not, because once you start getting money, if you have the money, you're no longer going to be interested in staying an agent because you've made the money. So now what? I don't fucking love this. I was just doing it for money. So then I think about like what does it for me? And the truth is it's the game of it. It's not the money. It's the it's the drug of closing a deal, winning for your clients, selling a house, winning a listing presentation, buying a good flip, selling a good flip. And if you're addicted to the game and the hustle of it, I think you'll be a good realtor long term. And if it's just like monetary, there's other shit you can do for money.
Yeah, and also like it doesn't, and like we talked about, like you can, like what we were saying before we went live is like a lot of realtors use the hope and pray method. They hope somebody calls. They list a property and they put a sign on the front lawn and they hope and pray somebody calls them. Yeah. But if you're not establishing systems and trying to run a business is what it comes down to. Yeah. Like. You're not going to do better, but the hope and pray method, unfortunately, in this business sometimes is successful enough for some people, because if they are just in it for the money, I'm in this game to get better every single day. And that's how I think everything in life should be, whether it's relationships, your health, whatever. It's what this whole podcast is about. Right. Here we grow, right? Yeah. So if you're not in it to constantly, be obsessed with, getting better, then I don't know how successful you might see some success. Yeah. But you can see success quickly in this business if you put your head down and hustle. And, I think a lot of realtors do that and they go, that was pretty good. I guess I could sit back for a little bit. Yeah. But then what happens is you sit back a bit and you're like, holy shit, I don't know where my next listing is coming from. I don't know where my next buyer is coming from. So that can be scary too. So
yeah. And, I think you hit the nail on the head there, man. It's,
how important is social media? Because I know we agree on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the pound for pound champion. It costs no money. There's lots of exposure. Off camera, I've got a guy that follows me around making social media for me. So, we pay him. Our team pays him a salary to specifically do that. So I think it's ultra important. And, we were talking off camera again a little bit about like it's hard when something doesn't give you a return exactly. Like if I make this many posts, it brings me this much money. But like it's hard to put a monetary value on branding yourself and being out there. And honestly, you're one of the guys that is like, when I'm going through my phone, I see your shit all the time. And when we're talking about social media in any realtor group, your name gets brought up just because it's like, oh, did you see this new video? Did you see that? And like, that is what we're doing. And whether it's good feedback or bad feedback for people, there's people that don't like the shit I do. Yeah. They think I'm a clown, whatever. The fact that they're talking about me is already a win, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like the, no publicity is bad publicity. I think it's just, and it's cheap and everyone uses it and everyone's phone is in their hand 24/7. It's like a billboard you'd pay a big bucks for. You drive by maybe once a month to see some realtor on it. Everyone has a phone in their hand 24/7.
That's so weird. That's the exact example I was about to use.
Yeah.
Are we the same guy? What's going on right now?
Brother?
I was about to...
Different looking to doughboys. Yeah. Where was your dad around 1988 in the Toronto area?
I don't know, man. That's what I like. And I appreciate that shout out too, because, it's like... Social media is actually hard because of that judgment, though, because you have to be able to be like, at some point, I don't give a fuck about what people think
100%.
Because this is my business, right? And before, I never posted on social media. Before, we came to EXP and I met some people that were taking social media super seriously. I didn't want to bother my followers with my business, but the thing is, you're the business.
Right.
So you have to.
You got to be careful on content now because I'm seeing it. A year ago, we were talking. You and I was like, man, I love what you're doing on social media. We should do some shit together, blah, blah, blah. Now in this last, I'm going to say 12 to 18 months, everyone is doing social media. Yeah. The older agents are doing social media. Yeah. And so it gets kind of congested when so I think how you do it now. Quality content is better than, we were just talking like, you can't just keep putting sold posts up of like, I sold this one. Yeah. That's another one I sold. And we sold them too. It's like, okay, we get it, man. You sell fucking houses. We all sell houses. So it's like, who are you? Let's get to know you. 100%. Let me see. I want to see the shit I like was when you're whatever, if you're, down in Arizona and you're golfing and I get to see a cool new golf course or what you're doing on the weekend or like, you're taking your dogs hunting. It's like knowing who you are, not just what your business is doing. I think that's the
dope
power
Range
of social.
Rover.
Yeah, who's got one of those?
I want to make bank, bro. I want to drive a Range Rover.
The Rangy.
This is the Catalina fucking wine mixer right now.
Man, you've got like a Jeep, a truck, a fucking mansion.
So we got a little bit of time here. We got like 2 minutes, and I've been waiting to do this with a realtor, and I feel like you're gonna have fun with this. Okay. So we're gonna do over under, and I'm just gonna speedball shit at you.
Yep.
Things about real estate, and you're gonna say over under. Over, obviously you fuck with it.
Yeah.
And under, you don't.
Okay, that's perfect. Since I'm a gambler, this is the over.
All right,
under.
perfect. You ready? Okay.
Over, I fuck with it. Yeah.
Open houses.
Over.
Lockbox code 6969.
Under.
Dressing casual.
Over.
Direct mail.
Over.
Cliches, so saying location.
Under.
Okay, dads with flashlights.
Over. I had a power outage last night, so yeah, over.
But what about when
at
there's
a home inspection?
When there's or just a showing? Every showing I go to, all of a sudden the dad's like, I gotta get my flashlight, even though the lights are on.
I'm thinking of like in general, should dads have a flashlight in their house? Yes. Don't bring your fucking dad to the home inspection.
Dude, I was at a house yesterday and I'm like, the guy's like, I need did you bring a flashlight? And the kid's like, I have my phone.
Yeah.
Like, and there's lights in the house. I don't know. Okay. I'm gonna name some celebrities in real estate over under. Tom Ferry.
Fuck, under.
I was gonna say, as soon as you took that breath of air, it's under.
Yeah.
Gary V.
Over.
Tony Robbins.
Over.
Grant Cardone.
Over.
Ryan Serhant.
Under.
Property Brothers.
Under.
Okay, this is the big one. You ready?
Yeah.
Pat Nadeau.
Over.
Hey!
Nice.
Okay, so having a catchphrase like I don't know, what would yours be?
Sell smartly, use Hartley.
Yes.
No.
Sounds like you've already thought about this, and it's an over.
And I don't use it, so it's an under.
Okay, messaging through showing time.
Oh my God, under.
Yeah,
Fuck
dude.
that, man.
I have a cell phone.
Yeah.
Leads me to my next one. Putting your office number on all of your marketing material.
Under.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calling people, you're like, yo, why can't I get a hold of you? This is your office. Like, just have a cell phone.
I would it's funny because I'm dealing with
This is in
all
the
of this
70s.
shit. Like, there's a lady right now messaging me on showing time about like property stuff and.
Okay, random numbers and offer prices or listing prices. So it ends in like 47.
Yeah. Over.
Me too.
Yeah.
Anything for luck, man.
Yeah. The eights for the Chinese folks.
Posting about how late you're working, #grind.
Ooh, fuck, that's an over because I do it, but I think it's cheesy as shit. Because I'll just drive by my office with like a burger. I'm like, I should take a picture right now, pretend I'm working, like pull over, get my fucking backpack out. Like, we'll just leave in the office. It's like,
you're at a red house across the parking lot on a Saturday night. You're like, I could zoom in far enough to make it look like I'm at work.
Grinding.
Like it. What else I got? Real estate conferences.
Over.
Social media skits.
Over. Don't do enough of them.
Yeah. Okay. This is a good one, dude. This might be more open for conversation. When your clients say, "Hey, what do you think of 123 Main Street?"
Oh God. Yeah. I'll always give them an answer, but that's an under for me.
What do you say?
I'll go research it quickly, and then I'll ask them. And it depends. If I know what they're looking for, then I'll kind of have an answer. But if it's just someone that comes out of the blue, like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, well, what do you mean? Like,
or do you know anything about? I'm like, I know all the information that I sent you via, like, I know. Yeah. Do you like it? I don't. What do you want? If they're like, it's like, okay, what do you think about it? I think it's great.
Like, as an investment, as a home, what do I think it needs as to live in it? Because I think you could change the floors and paint it as an investment. But I don't think it works well.
The problem with answering that is when they say, "What do we think of it?" If you go, "Well, I think it's a shithole," and they're like, "Well, we loved it." And you're like, "Damn, you
got bad taste."
Yeah. Or a bad budget.
Yeah. Stop being poor.
Okay. What about over under lead companies, ISA companies pitching you?
Oh man, under. They really are pitching hard. However, I have used companies that I've gotten leads with. So
yeah, well, 100% I agree, but it's also just like it's every day of just random and never anybody who speaks English either. So it's like I don't think you're going to be closing too many people.
That's it's so true. They're a little bit. There's too many of them. I wish there was just like 5 good ones, but if there was 5 good ones, everybody would be using them. And
do research.
Yeah,
cool, man. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Man.
This was a riot.
Yeah.
Do you want to throw your social media handles and stuff in case anybody wants to find you?
Yeah, sure. It's dhartley77 on pretty much all socials and at TRG Group.
And there may or may not still still be a drink at Stages nightclub named after you. So
There is,
if you
yeah.
are at Stages, maybe check that
Yeah,
out.
Mike Grivich, if it's not on the menu, can you bring it back? I know you haven't worked there in a decade, and if you ever watch this, just, get it back on the menu.
Appreciate it, bro.
Thanks, man.
Here we go.